Something that I'm a really big believer in is kind of this process of reading about things on blogs like the Client Boost blog or PPC Hero or WordStream, engaging with that content to learn about things you haven't yet discovered, and then testing them in your own accounts, writing about it and reflecting on that process, and then just engaging with people in the PPC community to kind of fill in any knowledge gaps that you may have, because it's such an awesome sharing community of people who are always putting stuff out there. So I feel like it's definitely a community that you have to take advantage of, especially if you're just getting started. So I'm a huge believer in that cycle of kind of reading, testing, and reflecting.
Very cool. Now, Reese, one thing that you've brought up in the past conversations we've had is how you've proactively developed yourself in learning how to be more analytical. And Aaron, you just also mentioned that thinking analytically, being analytical, like that's something that you really strive to do. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Aaron, how you have cultivated that in your career?
Yeah, well, I will say, full disclosure, I am not in an analytical role now for a reason. I don't enjoy that piece of this world, but it was crucial to getting where I am today, and I do think it's a good skill to have. The way I did it is I found people at my company at WordStream at the time that had really, really strong analytical skills. And I made them my mentor, and I flathered them to the nth degree and said, every time you look at an account, will you just sit down, and you don't even have to talk to me. I want you to just like, oh, sorry, the lights. At Google, the lights turn off sometimes when you're, if you don't move around enough. Okay. Anyway, so I would literally sit my mentor down in a room, and I'd say, just tell me out loud what you're thinking when you look at this data. Like, tell me what you're looking for. And I almost if you can talk to enough people who have that strong skill set and kind of learn what's going on in their head, then you can start to think that way and emulate what they're doing. And it kind of taught me, it was a new way of thinking, because that's not how I think. And that's really how I developed it. And I also partnered with some really good people to, I'm good at the communication side. I'm good at writing ad copy. Hey, let's partner up. You figure out what's going on here, and I will help you, communicate that to the client. I think if you're not great at something, you can learn the basics, but then why not lean on people who are really good at it?
So part of your professional development was really developing the ability to bring your coworkers and collaborate effectively. Matt, what was your you were interjecting there?
Oh, I was just going to say, again, that's something I agree with completely. I think it's something that you're going to find out in your career, that you're good at some things and not as strong at others. And don't try to be great at everything. Be great at the things that you know. And then, as Aaron said, lean on other people if you
outsource.
Right. I was going to say, whenever I mentioned earlier with Excel, I know enough to get by. I can do pivot tables, I can do reports, all that. But if I need some advanced analysis done, I'm going to someone else to help me run that.
Cool. Whereas Reese, you would probably just dig into that advanced analysis, and you would just totally dig it, right? How did you go about really not only recognizing the importance of that, but then proactively training yourself to be more analytical?
Yeah, and so, having been an English major, the concept was kind of new to me, and there was a point where, I was kind of in my first job, and after I discovered that there was kind of, a few associations between PPC and doing some really good analysis, I started figuring out what does it even mean to be analytical. So I started Googling that, and kind of one image that I really that really caught on to me early on was the idea of kind of having a diagnostic approach. So I kind of started thinking of approaching accounts like a doctor. So if you see, one question that I'm sure everyone here has encountered is why are conversions down? So Yeah. So if conversions are down, like what's the next level of like cause that could be affecting that? So like is the are the campaigns getting the same amount of clicks or traffic that they were? Are ads even showing the same amount of times? And so I mean, you can really kind of trace all that down to like, you know, a specific campaign or ad group or even search terms sometimes. And so I always love to kind of explore that like root cause route. And so one thing that's been really helpful to me in that area too is a framework called the 5 whys. And so
Five whys.
yeah, just kind of a way of like, if you notice something happening, like why is it happening? And then kind of tracing that to the next step and like, why is that happening?
Yeah, super. So another question here, the very best PPC professionals, what separates them from everyone else? There's a lot of opportunity here. A recent grad can say, yeah, I'll do PPC, but those that are really going to excel, those are really going to demonstrate excellence in this field, what separates their behaviors, their approach from the others who are just kind of average at what they do? What are some of your thoughts on that? Matt, maybe you can start us off with some of your observations.
Sure. So I think it's really about passion. And I know that's a little cliche to say, but earlier on I was talking about you know, someone who really wants to get ahead and keep doing more, and even during their free time, they spend time working on it. It's going to sound a little nerdy, but I remember when I first started, I was just so enamored with the field that I would spend some Friday and Saturday nights working on accounts. Yeah, I know I don't have much of a life, but it was you know, I just really loved what I was doing, and you know, I got lucky to a certain extent that I found the field that I really enjoyed. But truthfully, you're going to get ahead if you really have a strong passion that's easy to see.
Very cool. Other thoughts on that, Erin?
Yeah, I think there are two things. The first thing is just not being afraid to take risks. When I look at the people out there who are like really nailing it and they're prolific, they're trying some off the wall stuff that a lot of people have probably said that's a very bad idea. But if you're, you know, 9 times out of 10, they may not be hitting it. They're not telling us about those times, right? But you can only find those diamonds if you're trying new things, because otherwise it's something that everybody else is doing, and by nature you're run of the mill. I think the second thing, and the thing that's really stood out to me particularly about this community, I think in a lot of jobs, when you're really good, you kind of put a wall around yourself. You're like, I'm good, and I am not sharing my expertise because like I'm the person who's good at this, and I don't want other people like getting in on my territory. And really with paid search, firstly, it's about building a name for yourself, especially if you want to start your own agency. If you are doing freelancing, you need to build a name for yourself. And one of the ways you do that is being actively involved in the paid search community, sharing your successes, sharing your failures, and teaching people what you've learned. And I also think it's about sharing your experiences with your team to build a really strong team around you. I mean, if you have a bunch of people working for you, you don't want to hold those brilliant things you're learning in. You want to be disseminating that throughout your team so they can try to more accounts, and you're building up this stronger network of you know, positive performance. So a really good PPC leader needs to be willing to share with the rest of us.
Wow, sharing as well. Didn't anticipate that answer, but really makes sense. So Reese, I've observed you really applying a lot of these things in your own profession that we've been discussing here, reaching out to mentors, always studying, seeking the best, experimenting. We had the privilege of journeying together for 1 year here in San Antonio when you were part of the digital marketing apprenticeship here in San Antonio. And it was just amazing to see your passion for this. But what are some of your thoughts in separating yourself, demonstrating that excellence?
Yeah, I would definitely, I was kind of grinning when Matt was talking about passion and kind of like that layer of nerdiness that accompanies it. Because I mean, anyone who works with me knows that like my nerdiness is not something that can be kept a secret at all. But
No.
I would say, like, in addition to that, like being a habitual learner, being habitually curious, and also having the courage to take action. Because, like Aaron also mentioned, a lot of the people, I mean, a lot of people that are really looked up to, they are the ones taking risks. And I know when I was first getting started and beginning to like make bulk changes in accounts with AdWords Editor, there's a little bit of like hesitation that comes with just pushing the button sometimes when you're, especially when you're new to accounts. So having the courage to push the button, and as you get further along, having the courage to pursue riskier strategies if you think that there's a chance there could be a big payoff. Combining like that passion with a courage to take action, I think is huge.
Cool. So not every environment encourages you, though, to experiment or to collaborate, to share your knowledge. I mean, some environments are more conducive to that than others. Here at Digital Creative, we're working with a lot of search professionals who are moving into an agency environment or in-house team, and they're looking to us for some guidance in helping make these connections, specifically here in San Antonio and in Austin, where we have really an amazing network of just some really great teams that we're forming these relationships with. But as they look at where they might be, where they might land, what are some specific things that might be a red flag, and then some other things that would be like, yeah, green light, this is where I want to, this is where I'm going to flourish. What have you observed?
So, the first thing I would say is that if your company doesn't have a training program, that's a red flag. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, the super in-depth training program. It varies by company. But if you're coming in entry level and they're not really willing to train you, and it's more of you doing everything yourself, that's definitely a red flag. I think if you go in and you're immediately expected to manage 20 to 30 accounts, that's a red flag as well. Just kind of putting too much. What's that?
You've seen that before?
Ethical agency. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're joining an agency that you shouldn't believe in.
Yeah, it's it's tough. I mean, at Hannafin, I think we're a little spoiled, and I don't say that just because it's the company I work at, but I've seen a lot of agencies out there, how they do things. And, as you look in accounts, you start to notice patterns and stuff. And, training is one of those things where it kind of like, to use a PPC analogy here, kind of like creating a solid AdWords or Bing Ads foundation. Once you have that foundation going, it's easier to expand on it later on, to make optimizations, to learn more, and so forth. So, just those couple things I would definitely look for when you're looking at careers in PPC.
That's great. I just want to interject here for our audience. If you have a question, feel free to chat us, and we can make some time for a question in just a moment if there's any question. So Erin, some thoughts that you have on this?
I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Okay. Were you actually that new recruit that they say, here's 30 accounts, make it happen?
I started WordStream when it was a very small company, and to their credit, they did not do that.
Okay.
And I really appreciate that. Like I was saying before, I truly believe you do not want to be part of an agency that is throwing people to the fire in that manner, because it's an indication that they are not doing right by their clients, right, and probably someone you don't want to work for. WordStream was really, really understaffed when I joined, and it didn't matter. They had me shadowing calls. They gave me time to learn things. They trained me. And they made me pass a lot of quizzes and a lot of tests before they put me near a client to talk to, which is definitely the right thing to do. I think working at a smaller agency is great because you get to kind of rub shoulders with people who are really good at what they do and learn from people who are pretty high up. When it's a small company, that's oftentimes the case. But you want to ensure, like Matt said, that they're willing to train you willing to provide that mentorship to you.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I really, really recommend, look at the reviews that clients have given an agency before you sign on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of amazing agencies out there, and there's also a lot of not so amazing agencies out there. And if their clients love them, then that's an organization you want to be part of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's an organization that you will be able to grow in. If they have a really, really unhappy client base, that's a big, big red flag for me. And usually it's the internet nowadays, it's pretty easy to figure that one out.
Yeah, transparency. Reese, what's been your experience with that?
Yeah, I agree. Like a red flag would be if, you walk into a situation where, you kind of get like 20 or 30 clients thrown at you. I've seen situations like that where, it's like sometimes each account manager is kind of on their own island of like 20 or so clients, and there's just not a whole lot of communication going around. And that can be a scary situation. Like,
can I ask you, how do you know that before you sign on with that team that that's the case? Like, how do you get visibility into that? Everyone working kind of in their own island.
It's a really good question. I'm not sure I have a great answer for that yet. I think the best guess that I would have is if you want to get like really sleuthy about it, then you could reach out to other account managers working at that agency on an individual basis just to see if they'll be willing to give you their honest feedback.
Yeah,
I would ask it in the interview. I think when you're interviewing for a job, they're also kind of interviewing for you.
Yes.
If you want to make sure that it's the right fit, I think it really demonstrates that you have a strong belief of how this should be, and you want to make sure you're finding a good fit. And I would encourage people to be appropriate when asking those questions, but to not hesitate to find out what the situation you're getting yourself into is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's great. Well, any closing thoughts you have for our emerging PPC professionals? What other recommendations would you have for them to really be excellent in this area? Final recommendation, maybe?
Matt, you go first.
Okay.
So, I guess what I would say is continuing the theme about kind of showing that passion and trying to get ahead and doing more.
Doing more.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've seen some questions here about what other stuff we can do, what other blogs we can read. Really, like even something as simple as searching for PPC blogs, and maybe what we can do after this too is we can send a list of maybe some of our blogs we look at on a consistent basis. But
that'd be outstanding.
Just learning, and I know when I first started in PPC, I went to I think it was Barnes & Noble and bought a search engine marketing book, and I still have it. And even though it's obsolete now, it's still kind of cool to look at. But just reading all you can, learning what you can, and then applying it in practice once you're able to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic. Erin, a final thought for us?
Yeah, I'll piggyback. I really agree with Matt on that point. Although my weekends are very precious to me, so my recommendation is if you commute by train or by bus, I bought myself like a good hour and a half of reading PPC stuff just on my way to work. And I considered it like, it's like with your morning coffee, right? You're getting like a quick overview of what's going on in the industry. You're walking into work ready to go. That was super helpful for me. So figure out the blogs that you like, get your phone out, and that's what you should be doing on the way to work or listening. There's a ton of like pretty good webinars out there about PPC. The other thing I will do that Matt didn't mention, and I'm shocked, is Matt started this Twitter chat called PPC Chat. And I'm
did that shameless plug for me.
I got you. It is by far some of the most brilliant and also generous people in the industry who are there once a week. I'm in different time zones now. So what is it, Tuesday at noon Eastern?
Yeah. So what's that, 9 for you?
Yeah, early for me.
Early, yeah.
But so it's amazing because you don't even have to participate, just follow what they're saying, like read their conversations. It's fascinating. And also when you're stumped with something, turn to them and ask them for help. It's like having the best, smartest people there saying like, oh, I'll give you help. So follow that chat, participate. PPC chat is amazing.
Very cool. Reese, a final word?
Yeah, I think that there are so many companion skills that come with PPC, like Excel and understanding attribution modeling and understanding like paid social, which can be kind of a totally different beast from paid search. And so with so many different types of things to learn out there, I think that it can be really helpful to kind of isolate those for yourself and kind of approach them in a logical way where you're kind of working on one at a time. That way they don't just all blur into each other.
Absolutely. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation tonight. Thank you so much for coming out, sharing your experiences. Matt, Aaron, Reese, it's been a lot of fun. We're going to post this in the PPC and Search Facebook group so that more PPC search professionals can benefit from this going forward. And we're going to be doing additional webinars. In fact, Reese, I think we've got one coming up with the founder of your agency, Jonathan Dane, and on the 29th. So we'll look forward to having everyone back for that. And if there's questions that everyone has that they'd like to see addressed or a topic, please do share that within the community, and we'll interact there too and make sure that we address that in future webinars. But this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. I'll look forward to next time. We'll have to do it again.